Year 2020 has been a year of jolts and jump scares, keeping us on our toes almost all the time, worrying what's next. While we wish and pray that the worst is over, we see troubles manifesting in new forms. In the backdrop of COVID-19 pandemic, malign actors are increasingly finding new opportunities to cause havoc. During this difficult time, the last thing we want to see is an attack on our business in the form of a cyber attack. The reason behind this webinar is a couple of adverse events that happened around us in the recent past and the thoughts that were triggered by those events. Valuementor is a cybersecurity partner for several organizations in the Middle East, US, and India. We have been helping organizations manage cyber threats and risks since 2012. As we were gathering our intelligence around the unpleasant situations and helping our clients to strengthen their security defense to face the new challenges, we thought it's prudent to extend the awareness to a wider audience. So here we are. I am Indu, and on behalf of Valuementor, I thank you all for joining us today. Through this webinar, we wish to share with you our most profound experiences dealing with ransomware threats. Binoy, the CEO and principal consultant of Valuementor, will take you through the many facets of ransomware threats and the various prevention mechanisms one can adopt. We also have Yaniv, ElbazVP, APAC, MEA, and India Ironscales to speak to you about their email security solutions. We would love to see active participation from you throughout the session. So at any point, if you have questions to ask, please drop them in the Q&A box on the left side of the window. We will respond to them during our Q&A session. We also have a quiz towards the end of the presentation, so you could be winning exciting prizes from us. So please stay tuned, and we hope you enjoy the session. Over to Binoy.
Before, thank you, Indu, for that quick intro. So I'm going to do a quick introduction about Valuementor. So once again, good morning to everyone. So Valuementor is a leading cybersecurity provider in this region. We have been operating in this region for about 7 years now, and providing services like cybersecurity end-to-end services like consulting, advisory, security testing, security operations, and cyber engineering. So in today's session, we would be talking more about ransomware than about our services, in detail, and would like to have your questions, and probably we can answer some of those questions during the session, and we can get back to you with more detailed, answers after the webinar. Right. So the threat of ransomware. Why should we worry about today's ransomware? So ransomware is nothing but an or a virus which is affecting you as an organization, right? So why should we worry about ransomware? So ransomware creates a lot of damage as an organization, and it creates something like a financial loss for the organization. So it is identified that a typical ransomware attack creates something like $300,000 of worth of expenses to an organization in terms of loss of productivity, lost business, cost of recovering the data, and other expenses associated with the ransomware. This is in addition to the ransom payments a typical organization would pay for. So ransom payments average is about $100,000 for small to mid-sized organization, and to larger organization it goes beyond $400,000-$500,000. Now, this is not the only damage a ransomware creates to your organization. In today's, and especially today's ransomware, they focus on exfiltration of your data. So exfiltration of data like personally identifiable data, personal health data, so hospitals being targeted, insurance companies being targeted, government organizations being targeted. So there are data of interest when it comes to organizations. And this data, once it is exfiltrated from your organization, they use that as an additional element for asking for ransom. And obviously, the major damage is the impact on the reputation of the organization, which is negative publicity. People talk about it. People start losing the trust about that organization, etc. would happen. And the attackers would also know that the organization is not strong in terms of security, and potentially they would do further attacks on those organizations. Right. So when it comes to ransomware, how most ransomware attacks happen? How is it that they work or they get access to your organization? So if you look at a typical ransomware attack pattern, it includes 4 stages. So we have a detailed mapping of how ransomware enters your organization and goes through and eventually creates the impact. I'm trying to summarize that into 4 stages. So one is initial access, and this is the most important step or area where you need to focus if you want to protect your organization from ransomware attacks. It is to protect your remote desktop connections, email, and applications and other things which are exposed to the internet. So the initial access of a ransomware attacker is always through one of these 3 or 4 methods. So they deliver the remote desktop connection access or a malware which allows them to remotely control one of those systems through phishing emails. And I would say about 80% plus of the attacks or ransomware attacks originated from phishing emails. And that is 5 in 1, 4 and 5 attacks originated from email as a target vector. And it is critical, therefore, to protect the email channel. Obviously, there are other channels, RDP, remote desktop connections, which are exposed to the internet. It needs to be protected. And the applications, the web applications, the web servers which are running on your internet perimeter, that needs to be protected. So that's the initial access. Once they gain the initial access, they expand the footprint inside your organization. This could be using PowerShell, Windows commands, or admin tools which is available within the system. The attackers would then create user accounts in your Active Directory or your systems. They evade the defense systems like antivirus, what you have, and also disable audit trails so that you won't be able to trace back to these attackers. They do something called password dumping to collect the user credentials and then perform a local discovery of systems to see which systems are vulnerable and which systems can be exploited so that they can expand their footprint within the organization. And finally, they move their tools across the organization so that they can reutilize those tools even if you detect one of the origin servers or origin systems where this ransomware was present. And then once the footprint is set and they establish their footprint, then the third obvious step is to exfiltrate data. So they would collect data from the systems, file servers, databases, application servers, where all they could find data, meaningful data, they would exfiltrate those data and they set up protocols in such a way that the exfiltration is automated. So you could monitor things like, extreme amount of data going from one particular system, then that's something which is of a worry. So once the exfiltration is done, then obviously the next step is to, attack and encrypt the data so that they can demand ransom. So this is how typically a ransomware works in most of the organization. Most ransomware of today works in this way. First step, second step, and third step is something which is very critical because even if you recover data from backups, they could ask for ransom for not exposing your data. So yeah, if you see this slide, this is more of a detailed way of identifying where all we can establish, where all we can kill the ransomware presence in your network across from the initial access till they impact you, right? So I'm not going to explain this one. I've just kept it for you to review it probably later and establish your playbooks so that you can protect your organization from ransomware. Now, the big question, what can you do about it, right? So yeah, there is ransomware in the market, there is ransomware in the internet. So what should we do? What is that we can do about it? The biggest thing we would want to, being a strategic consulting company and an organization which believes in setting the fundamentals right, the first thing and the foremost thing we wanted to convey is get your fundamentals right. Establish your security baseline in such a way that you address things with the right people, the right process, and the right technology. So if you have a team who is capable of doing the cybersecurity aspects, well and good. If you don't, then you should train those people what you have, or you should outsource. Do you have enough process and technology to provide the basic security, what is required for the organization? Remember, ransomware is nothing but a malware. It can be prevented, right? So that's the key message I want to leave. Now, when you look at managing the risk of ransomware, the fundamentals are spread across 5 focus areas. One is identifying the risks. So you perform periodic vulnerability assessments. Understand how your organization is flaring up against the security weaknesses. Ransomware utilizes known security weaknesses. And I would say 80% of the ransomware of today is utilizing something which is already known, which can be fixed. So fix it and you get away with that, right? Identify how your people are responding to phishing emails. Understand by doing phishing simulations, continuous awareness trainings, so that they would, they would perform a better response when they receive a phishing email. Next is the protection. So if people are failing, if technology is failing, then you should also consider implementing solutions like, email security solution, which could provide you prevention from phishing, malware attacks, and things of that sort. Perform security updates of your systems so that your systems are up and running all the time. Implement multi-factor authentication. Install a solution which is called EPP, Endpoint Protection Platform, or EDR, Endpoint Detection and Response, which would allow somebody to respond to incidents on a real-time basis. And implement secure web gateways. The third and fourth stages are detection and response. So if you don't have people, go for a managed EDR service. If you don't have people, go for a managed email security. Also use 24/7 services, or have a team who's working on 24/7 so that your organization can detect such attacks and prevent them. Obviously, so nobody is 100% sure that unknown risks would be exploited by ransomware attackers. So in such scenarios, you need to also ensure that you have recovery capability. So build backups in such a way that you use intelligent backup solutions, which would protect your organization when it comes to attacking the backups. Because today, the first thing ransomware attackers do is they try to figure out where the backups are stored and encrypt them so that they won't, you won't be able to recover it from the backups. So you need to have solutions which can protect you from, protect you from encrypting the backups and establishing backup as a method for recovery. Right. Now let's take a brief look at how would you respond to a ransomware incident. And this is one of the biggest questions I used to get from every customer: to pay or not to pay. Probably many of you are also having that question, whether to pay or not to pay. Now, I would say it's a business decision. And sometimes, in some cases, your insurance company would say, yeah, let's pay so that we can recover the data. Yeah, it's purely a business decision. It's not an IT decision or a security decision. Now, what you need to remember is payment is no guarantee of recovery, right? Not every paid victim received their data back, and half of the paid victims received a second ransom demand. It also been noticed that payments may increase future targeted attacks. So how do you respond? So when you have a cybersecurity incident, especially a ransomware incident, what you need to do is you need to isolate your systems first and foremost, and identify which are the other systems that are potentially impacted by the ransomware attack, and see those systems, identify those systems. Identify the point of entry and close it. So it may not be the first system you notice, which is which is an entry point. There could be other systems, and that could be the one which is the entry point. So you need to identify the entry point and close it. Identify the time of entry so that you can recover data previous to that time of entry. Now build new systems from scratch for all infected systems, and restore files to a time prior to infection. So if you have data which is already infected, don't restore it. So you need to find out what time the infection or incident happened, and then restore data prior to that. And conduct post-incident reviews so that you can be sure that there are no more vulnerable systems in the network. And deploy additional controls based on the lessons learned during this process. So this would give you, a proper incident response process for your ransomware attacks. If I summarize what we have just discussed, I would say most ransomware attacks can be prevented. Get your fundamentals right by utilizing people, process, and technology. Ensure you have adequate backups for all critical data, and obtain cyber insurance to transfer some of your risks if you're really looking at, if you're really a large organization which has got a large amount of risks to be addressed. And get the support of an MSSP if you have limited in-house skill set. So I think this is where we need to really look at as an organization, and potentially this is where organizations need to understand that most of these attacks can be prevented. All right. So I think from here we would go for presenting the email security solution, which would explain how the email and phishing security can be achieved. Yaniv, over to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Anna, we can hear you. Can continue.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Let me share the screen. Can you see it properly, please?
Yes, we can. Hello?
Yes, and can you hear me fine, right?
Yes, Yaniv. You can continue.
Okay, great. Thank you very, very much, Binoy, Valuementor and SecureNet for arranging this great webinar. My name is Yaniv Elbaz. I'm Vice President for Sales Rest of the World. I would like to take you through, following the great presentation that Binoy talked about, the ransom and the risk. I would like to talk about the situation today as we found it in many countries, and what is the suggested and recommended solution following our experience. So, as Binoy mentioned, the situation today is not that good. Email phishing attacks are more than double year over year. The situation, as you know, with organizations, 70% mentioned that they got and received a phishing attack in the last year, and the number of money. I can tell that $1.5 billion. It's not, it won't be accurate, but this is the last number that we have. It's so much money going through the attackers, because currently today they are succeeding. And as you know, today the spam is not an issue anymore. Malware, ransom, BC, account takeover, and others are still a huge problem for organization. And as you know, you don't know what will come next from the attacker, and we are trying to chase. It's like a cat and a mouse. We're always trying to understand what will be the next based on the previous that we found. But eventually, we are dealing with a rapid, constantly evolving vector. So, having said that, from the technology point of view, I would like to talk about the technology and other layers as well, from the problem, and then we will go to the solution. So from the technology perspective, the traditional SCG didn't stop the phishing attack. It will protect you in 80% of the time, 85% of the time. And it doesn't matter what is the solution that you're using. It can be Mimecast, Proofpoint, Symantec, Trend, ATP, Google, G Suite, but eventually it will not protect it. So still things will coming through, and it can be a ransom, it can be many things that will come through, and sometimes they will try to take your credentials. There are so many techniques, but eventually it will come to the employee. You are, I guess that you are already in the webinar. I guess that you're already familiar with this risk. You know what it is, but eventually your users and employees doesn't know what to do with it. And most of them, if we're talking about email security and awareness, some companies and vendors started to talk about how to educate my users. So they started to talk not about the technology, they're talking about the users now. So awareness, we found something very, very interesting about the human factor. So the human factor first, that targeted phishing attack are too sophisticated. This is the first thing that we found. Think about yourself. You are well expert and specialized in cybersecurity, and you are receiving an email. Something looks like this. Okay, let me expand it for you. Just this is something happened to Ironscales. This is happened to us a few months ago, and it came from Ironscales and not Ironscales. From Ian Baxter, there's a pre-sale engineer from Atlanta, but eventually it's not coming from his domain. It's coming from Ironscales, and it bypassed the ATP and Office 365. So what I'm trying to say here is, for the user, it's almost impossible to tackle and to say, yes, I know that there is something wrong. This is the first thing. And we need to help the users to understand if it's proper or not. And think about doctors today during the COVID-19 situation, how complicated it is for them to understand if it's proper or not, and how long, how many minutes that they have for each one of the emails to understand and to check the headers or to check the domains, makes sense or not. So this is the first. Secondly, we found within the human factor that some people will never learn, and the next, that people are not reporting enough. So let's talk a little bit about the statistic here, because we started 6 years ago with awareness and training, and we have a lot of information and data about it. So in average, 10% of every company will always, 10% will always click on the link or the attachment, or open up the attachment or enter credentials. Think about it. 90% of the time, okay, 90% of the time, the user will understand some of them, but will not report. And 10% from the organization will always click. So think about your risk. Okay, we called it easy clickers. So we talked about the technology perspective, and now we're talking about the human factor, and it's still not that solid. Binoy talked a little bit about the process. That says that we have something suspicious within our domain. So as a new employee and a well-educated and expert, let's say, okay, I will take the email and I will forward it to Binoy. I will say, Binoy, I think that there is something wrong going on. What is the process that you have in place today? Think about yourself as a company. So I guess I will give you the average. So Binoy is receiving the email from Yaniv. Binoy is calling back to Yaniv, asking, Yaniv, do not forward me the email. I need the MSG file. Okay, please explain what is the MSG file. Okay, I got you. I'm sending it over. Now Binoy has received the MSG file. Once he has the MSG, he needs to take the headers. You have to understand the content and the context. The links and the attachment need to be scanned outside or internally. And then once he received a decision and he found it as malicious or suspicious, he needs to remove it from all mailboxes, right? So he needs to create a PowerShell and to make sure that it's working. So as you can see, the process is too slow, it's too labor intensive, it's too complicated and limited. So the process of incident response, as Binoy mentioned, it's very, very complicated for most organizations today, and we need to help in this area as well. So these are the three challenges: technology, human. This is exactly what attackers are doing. The technology, they're using the human curiosity, and they're using the technology. And now they're taking advantage of the process because they know that the process is broken in most places. So what we have to offer within Ironscales, we found that the modules and the approach must be different from others. And as I mentioned with the SCGs, they will protect you 80%, 75%. It really depends who and when. So we found that we have a different approach of layers, and each one of the layers must be a self-learning. So this is what we call a self-learning email security platform. And it's a new category that we started with Gartner. So I would like to take you to the mailbox, the users, to the endpoint. Let's take it to the user's mailbox. So on the user mailbox, I would like to make sure and to ensure and to verify that the users, without awareness program or without making the user very aware and alert, I would like to make sure that the users know if there is something wrong, if there is something wrong going on or not. If there is something suspicious coming from Ironscales and not Ironscales, I would like someone to provide him the red banner saying that Ironscales find this email suspicious. It's sent from Ironscales, which is too similar to ironscales.com. Machine learning, big data, all the buzzwords behind it, eventually something very, very simple to the user. Very complicated behind the scene, but for the user, it's very simple. We're making sure, based on the activity And based on the profile and the index that we are creating for each one of the users, what is the current situation if there is something suspicious going on, like spoofing, impersonation, similarity, headers hacking, or something else. And then we are changing the user experience. So think about yourself. You're receiving an email from Valuementor, okay? And now the email is coming with typo or something else. And you already had a discussion with Binoy or Christopher or someone else in the company. Most of probably that you will not recognize it. And this is why I want someone sitting next to me and shouting out loud, Yaniv, this is not Ian as you know. This is not Christopher as you know. This is Christopher. Okay, now I can take action, a different action. So we are changing the user experience and we encourage and empower to do one thing from the user. And this is the only thing that I want from awareness piece. The awareness, making sure that the users know what is phishing, like COVID, and how to report. That's it. All the rest is up to you to provide them the proper tools. How we can do it? From OWA, from mobile, from Outlook, we have a report phishing option. Again, the user encouraged to report and to move the responsibility from his side to your side, okay, to the administrator side. How does it look from your side? Now I'm moving from the user perspective to the CISO perspective, okay, to the administrators, to the SOC. Now, AI incident response. Once the user is reporting, it will come straight to you within the dashboard, push notification on mobile, and by email and integration with ArcSight, Splunk, QRadar, whatever. And the first thing that we're doing in our dashboard, we are providing you a hint what other CISO will do in such case. As you can see, the virtual SOC analyst, it's another member within your team, will tell you that 90% confident that this is a phishing attack based on all the metadata. If it's 90%, I can set a threshold and say, yes, please remove it, don't ask me. But sometimes I'm not that certain, maybe it's 67% or 70%. I would like to see the full picture. And the incident response will come to this dashboard and you will be able to see everything about it. The sender fingerprint, what is the reputation of the domain? I don't want you to read headers because the time is an essence. You have to take action in less than 82 seconds. This is the average time for the user to click on a link or an attachment or open up the attachment. This is the average. So we need to take action fast. The reputation is very important to understand, okay, what am I dealing with? How the emails looks like. This is the email itself. The links and the attachment being scanned automatically with VirusTotal, OPSO, Google Server, Checkpoint, and Bitdefender. 6 different technologies. It's more than 55 different engines behind it. Okay, in total, we have more than 55 engines, just making sure that if it's a known somewhere, it will be blocked. Okay, and if we found it as malicious, we are not waiting for the CISO to mark it as phishing because it's already marked and found as malicious with one of the engines. And I can show you later within the action in the real dashboard how it looks. So once we found it as malicious, the email will be marked automatically as phishing and removed from all mailboxes immediately. Immediately. Now, if it's polymorphic attack, each one of the user is receiving something slightly different. Okay, think about a different sender, different subject, and you have like the recent attack had with one of the customers that we blocked. It was 900 emails that each one looks different. Very targeted attack, very high quality. So you can see that employees that got affected on the mailboxes the sender came from spoofer at Baxter and not spoofer and not Baxter. And the email subject can be different. Okay, so in this case, again, we know how to cluster and think about if you would like to make it your own as an incident response, that you have to create a PowerShell or the YAR rules or whatever, search and delete that you already have within your traditional tools with Microsoft, G Suite or whatever. Okay, with Microsoft Exchange. So it's very, very important to make sure that we know how to cluster these messages and to remove it as a bulk, as one. Okay, So this is about the incident response, and of course, a question will follow, and we will talk about it if needed further. The next thing, I mentioned the mobile application, just in a preview how it looks. And as you can see, new open incident came. You will receive the push notification to Android or iOS. Incident resolved as phishing by Temis, and Temis can take the decision. This is what other CISO will do. This is the virtual SOC. And in this case, again, you can see everything in one location, like you have seen it here, okay, on the dashboard. So it's very, very easy to take the decision from the kitchen, not open up the dashboard or doing the correlation now, just to see what is the situation with my company. So mobile application, very, very easy. Another layer that we have, as I mentioned, we have layers. Everything is about layers. If something will bypass the traditional defenses, like the known, we have the impersonation and spoofing and similarities. We have another layer, we call it visual similarity based on computer vision. We know how to take the original page or the original picture and to say, okay, this is how the pixels looks like, and these are the differences. And we found that the attackers are using different colors and different backgrounds sometimes, with slight differences within the pixels. And we know how to tackle it and how to make sure that it's the original page. They know how to bypass the Chrome or Internet Explorer engines very, very easily today. So we found this technology, it's proprietary to Ironscales, very effective as well. So this is the visual similarity technology. We have different pages we found in the last few months based on the COVID with voicemail and other examples coming. It's for the attacker today, it's a very, very interesting vector recently. Let's move on to another example. This one was very easy with different fonts, but as you can think and as you can imagine, your customers, your users, employees will enter the credentials sometimes. Now, another, and I think the most powerful layer that we have, it's called the intelligence sharing. Think about today's situation. If something wrong is going on, immediately if there is something going on in road, or if something going on in the country or anywhere else, today the news working very, very fast. Think about you're in a family group of WhatsApp and someone wants to say, okay, do not go through this route, or we would like to tell you or to update you about this or that. Immediately you will receive the update and the notification. And we thought about like road, okay, like Waze. If there is a traffic jam, I want to know about it now, not yesterday, and I don't know what will come tomorrow. So we are saying the same about CISOs. CISOs, like sensors in every company, would like to share knowledge anonymously and securely with each other once something is happened. Think about today's situation. The attackers really like the idea that each one of you working solid. If something bad is happened to the bank will close the windows and the doors. Nobody knows about the attacks going on in the bank now. And the attackers will be able to send it over to another 100 or 1,000 customers because no one is sharing the data. And it's 0 day. So the intelligence sharing, we found it very, very powerful. I will show you how it looks. In this case, we're talking about, in this incident, 168 different companies reported about this incident. Okay, at this time, 90 marked it as phishing attack, bypass all the traditional defenses, and it doesn't matter how many circles of security you have in place. It can be other gateways, other solutions, and other approach. Eventually, it came into the mailbox of the user, okay, in 168. 90 marked it as phishing. Now, it's happened to you, okay, God forbid, and you got something suspicious within your company, and you can see what is the statistics that's going on. That you're not the only one, that another 160 companies receive the same, so it's like a bulk attack coming to many organizations as a 0 day. You can see how the email looks like with voice notification. What is the reputation of the domain, where it's coming from? It's coming from edu. This is the IP. This is all the details that you need to take the decision very, very fast. You can set a threshold, but in some cases that, okay, we're not sure, you can see Themis will support or help you to take the decision as well. This is Themis. 90% confident that this is a phishing attack. All the statistics together, and this page will tell you, okay, let's take a decision in less than 3 seconds, or to set it automatically. So the federation, very, very powerful layer, and a self-learning from the crowd, from the community. Okay, each one of you guys, once you receive something, you will be able to verify it. Once you verify it anonymously and securely, you don't know who are the name, who are the customer name, and what is the size of the company, nothing like that. It's just relevant that a CISO somewhere in the world verify this attack. So this one, very, very interesting and powerful example. So just to summarize, we talked about the mailbox level anomaly detection as the first layer coming from to the user mailbox. And then the incident response and the federation with the community sharing the data, and the visual SOC analyst will take the decision or support your decision. But before that, I'm not going to wait to Yaniv or Binoy, to someone to report about it. Before that, I would like to make sure, like the traditional defenses, right? If Yaniv will report or Binoy will report about it, I will take the email and will scan it with all these engines. I would like to say, no. If there is an email coming through to my domain, I would like to check it with all the engines that I mentioned. Aristotle, Offsort, Google Server, and Checkpoint, Bitdefender, all the 55 different engines behind us, to make sure that if it's a known somewhere in one of the engines, we will block it and we will stop it. And it will not come again. And we will do the correlation with any solution that you have in the SIEM solution or SIEM SOC solutions. And then if something will bypass the traditional defenses, and it can happen, it doesn't matter what is the engine that you will use here. Eventually, the attackers can be very, very sophisticated, or the traditional defenses will not predict, okay? And then the mailbox level anomaly detection will pop up to the user saying, no, this is not Binoy, as you know. Okay, so the mailbox level anomaly detection is on the mailbox per activity and per the account. It's machine learning for each one of the users. Very, very powerful as a per user and per company, per organization. So it will become very effective. And if something will bypass, mailbox level anomaly detection, incident response, the federation, and you can understand that how each one of the layers can support each other. Now, this is in order to close the gaps and the loops for the users, for the employees, from the technology perspective and from the human perspective. Another thing that we have to support the awareness, to make sure that the users know what is phishing and how to be protected from it, is the gamified simulation and training. So I will come to the API in a second. So we have an integrated within our system, in the same platform, we have phishing simulation. And as I mentioned, 82 seconds, the average click rate, the average click is the 82 seconds to click on the first link or attachment. We need to make sure that the users know how to deal with it. Okay, so we have a campaign wizard, like in this case, and we have different types, levels, and scenarios that you can choose from, built-in scenarios in the system with different languages. And the scenario management eventually will tell the user, okay, let's send a campaign to all users or part of them per department, per tags, based on the synchronization that we have with the domain or the Active Directory. And once the user is receiving something like that, we would like to educate them to say, okay, if you've been lured and you clicked on the link or the attachment, let's see the email itself and what you did wrong. This is not a company domain, or this is old content or sense of urgency. It can be many, many things. So once the user is clicking on it, he will be right away educated and he will know what not to do for the next time. Another layer coming through the awareness is the training video library. The user will see what he did wrong on the email itself, and now he will see a short video, and then 5-question quiz will follow. So it's everything to support and making sure that the users know what is phishing and how to report. We would like to measure how long does it take for the user to report to me. I did a campaign at 10 a.m. at 10 minutes or after 2 hours. How long does it take for my organization to click on it? So this is a little bit about the awareness, the campaign summary, and we have different reports to support and to show you actually what is the current awareness level and the readiness in your company. We'd like to go back to the integration. We have an integration with Office 365 and G Suite with API, with Exchange it's a little bit different. Office 365 and G Suite Office 365 and G Suite have the integration. We are not changing the MX record. It's coming with the API. It's a webhook application. 2-click installation deployment. It's very, very easy because of the partnership that we have with both companies, with Microsoft and Google. And protection because it's in the cloud, so it's the functionality extend to mobile devices. So this is about how we're doing the integration. I guess you will have some questions, so please go ahead. What we're suggesting for each one of the companies in the webinar today is to try it out. No commit, no charge, of course, to see how everything that you found here working in harmony can help you to fight the targeted and the sophisticated and phishing attacks coming through emails. And as you know, this is the 96% of the times coming through email. This is the successful attacks coming through this vector. This is the main vector for today. So we highly recommend to try it out, to test it out. And once you have the information, I would like you to see what you will receive eventually after 3 weeks of trying our solution. Okay. So I will just finish with this dashboard. This is a real example of Ironscales account. So in the last, let's take this 3 months, we are 65 different employees today, located in Atlanta in the UK. And as you can see, we have in the last 3 months, 232 resolved phishing attacks. Okay. And let's see a little bit about the statistic. More than 4,000 quarantine email, including impersonation, spoofing on 65 users in 3 months. It's crazy. And think about your size of company and domain. Malicious content incident, we found 53. And mailbox anomaly, you can see what is the technique and the visibility that you're receiving following using Ironscales. You can see exactly what is the situation here. Exact display name impersonation 250. Okay. And this is the main technique that the attackers are trying to get into. And the most targeted department are the sales, marketing, and the most targeted employees is Brandon Neal, the CEO and the founder of the company. So you can understand, okay, these are the mailboxes or the departments, these are the technique, and you can understand exactly what they're trying to achieve. Resolved automatically by Themis, as I mentioned, virtual SOC analyst will help you out to take the decisions for you. And resolved by analyst, you can see how many out of them and how many hours saved because they are using Themis. So how effective is the use of Ironscales. So we covered everything from, in a very high level. We saw the full picture of understanding the email security, and I guess that the quiz will follow or your questions. Binoy, Christopher, would you like to take it further?
Thank you, Yaniv and Binoy, for sharing those valuable insights with us. I would just like to remind everyone that if you have any questions related to anything that Yaniv or Binoy talked about, please drop them in the Q&A box on the left side of the browser. Okay, and now it's quiz time.
Hello, good morning. Now we'll have a small quiz session. So I'll tell you how it's going to work. So basically, there'll be 2 questions asked. For each question, you'll be given some time, let's say half a minute, to type in your answers in the Q&A box. And each question will be asked independently. When the first question asked, you'll have 30 seconds. And after that, a second question, and then there'll be another 30 seconds. So you can give away your answers. And the concerned person who gives the correct answers will select 2 clients and give them the services as a winner. So I believe we can start right now. So the first question is, Binoy, can you change the slide? So what is the average cost of recovering from a ransomware attack other than the ransom payment? So I believe you guys can see the screens as well. So please drop in your answers in the Q&A box. I repeat the question once again. What is the average cost of recovering from a ransomware attack other than the ransom payment? So I do see some answers coming in. Good. There are a lot of answers coming in, guys. Give your thoughts for the same, please. Yes, I think that will do. So we can go with the next question. So Binoy, can you change the slide? So the second question, where is your enterprise email security most at risk? I repeat, where is your enterprise email security most at risk? Because you can drop in the answers in the same way you did for the first one in the Q&A session. Where is your enterprise email security most at risk? That is the question. Okay, I can see the answers coming up. Yes. Okay. So guys, we have a few more seconds. Please do drop in your answers. So thank you all for your answers. So we will get back to you on the same. So Indu, can you take it up for the Q&A session?
Yes, thank you, Christopher. Okay, so thank you all for those answers, and let's have some time for answering your questions now. So hope you have put in your questions in the Q&A box. Over to Binoy for answering the questions there.
All right, so thank you everyone for those questions and now actively participating in the session. So there are a few interesting questions which have come up. Before we go into those interesting questions, I would like to give a quick answers for those quiz questions. Obviously, the first question was to understand what is the kind of cost you should be seeing in terms of a ransomware attack. A typical mid-sized organization's average cost for recovering, responding, and performing all other activities related to ransomware attack is about $300,000 per incident. So that's something which is a information which you need to remember. In terms of second question, which is the biggest email security risk, is it's all about so everything can be prevented after before delivery. So post delivery, what happens at your organization is something which is the biggest risk. So probably that would be one of the key things which we need to protect from an organization perspective. So protecting the organization from a post-delivery perspective is the most important thing. I've seen some questions. Yaniv, I would like to ask this question, which is asked by Abhishek. How will the email security system implemented for my organization get real-time updates from other customers that have the same solution? So this is about the question on how do you protect, or how do you get the real-time feeds from other Ironscale customers?
Oh, great question. So think about, we are using Amazon Web Services, and a little bit about the architecture. So each one of the customer has a virtual instance in Ironscales Cloud based on Amazon. Once let's start with the user. If a user is reporting to you as a CISO, and you're the CISO verifying the attack, you are like, it's not exactly, but creating a signature in the cloud, in Ironscales Cloud. And this database, okay, this signature, we'll call it a signature, but it's not exactly, but we are sharing these signatures anonymously and securely with all other customers, and vice versa. Like if it's already in the post office in the UK, or if it's happened in the National Museum in South Africa, we are sharing everything in one location immediately, like in traffic. Okay, but you don't know the name of the person that's sitting next to you in the car or something like that. Okay, it's all just the metadata, and it's all done immediately at the same moment.
So thank you, Yaniv. So to summarize that answer, I would be correct in making the statement that the data, what is being shared between the Ironscale customers, is the anonymous metadata and a signature pattern, or a pattern, or a intelligence telemetry about that particular attacker, so that other customers won't fall for those attacks.
Yes, and another thing that is important, because I guess the next question will be about data privacy. We are partners with Microsoft and Google, and we are ISO 27001 certified, and SOC 2 Type 2 certification will come in a month from now. So we have just finalized this process. It's a very long, long and intensive. So we are well secured, and the security is the first thing as a company, as a security company as well. So
Sure.
everything is in place from the regulation as well, and GDPR as well, and compliant, so on and so forth. So just FYI. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So there is also a good question on product comparison. Probably, would you like to answer the question? So the question is, what are the advantages of Ironscale over Forcepoint email security?
Okay, nice. So you can still see my screen?
Yeah, you can.
I'm asking if you can still see.
You have to share it once again, Yaniv, please.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
So all the traditional defenses are talking about this layer, advanced malware and URL protection. Let's take ATP, Mimecast, Proofpoint, Symantec, Trend. All of these engines are actually here, stuck in the advanced malware and URL protection. If something will bypass the ATP and it's already in the employee mailbox, then what? If we're talking about specifically on Microsoft ATP, they have a static impersonation protection. Static, it's not dynamic, it's not learning your activity. So we have, and it's limited to 60 users. I don't know how many users do you have in the company, but it's always limited to 60 within Microsoft. Mimecast, Proofpoint, Symantec, and other doesn't have it at all. Mailbox level anomaly detection. G Suite has something like that. Very similar, not exactly. So mailbox level anomaly detection, it's only coming from Ironscales in a dynamic way. So the traditional defenses are stuck here, and they're using only very limited, they have their own engine. We're using 6 different technologies to make sure that if it's known, someone will capture it and will block it. If something is abnormal, the mailbox will protect. And then think about today. Let's say that you're using Microsoft or Mimecast or Symantec or whatever solution, and one of the user is reporting. How the user can report to you, how the dashboard looks like, how long does it take for the employees to report, and how long does it take for you to take action and remove it from all mailboxes? Is it less than a minute? 30 seconds? What about federation? If something bad is going on with one customer at Microsoft ATP customer, okay, how long does it take for Microsoft to update their database? Do you know? On average, more than 22 days. 22 days. Think about that. You're sharing a new incident, a verified attack, a phishing, real phishing attack that's coming through. Microsoft will take 20, and on average, we thought even worse than that, 22 days. And the same with other, by the way, other engines. Try to do it with Proofpoint or Mimecast or others. It's all the same. They have an analyst, they have something to look at it and to validate it and to ensure. If it's proper to one customer, and this is one of the patents that we have, if it's relevant to one of our customer, it's relevant to you as well. So the federation is very, very powerful, and we're doing it immediately, not after a day. It's like knowing about yesterday traffic jam. Virtual SOC analyst, it's not something that you have in place, no matter what is the solution that you're using. So for the incident response. And the awareness, it's only another thing that we found it as it's important to make sure that the users know what is it. Awareness, it's still important for the users to take action fast. If they found something suspicious, by Ironscales with the red banner, I would like and educate them to report. And then I can do the simulation and training to make sure that we will measure what is the situation in my company at the in the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, and after 2 years, etc., etc. So thank you very much for this important question about the competition. we have so many layers to protect and to make sure that if it's already known, it will be blocked. If not, we have others there to make sure that there is no gaps between them.
Okay. So thank you, Yaniv, for that insight as well.
Sure.
I think, yeah, so we don't have any more questions, Indu.
Okay,
Indu,
so
before you conclude,
yeah.
I just want to say regarding the quiz, there have been a lot of answers. So we will be evaluating the answers and getting back to all the attendees via email on the results as well. So yeah, thank you. So Indu, you can take over.
Yes, yeah. So now that we have come to the end of the session, so we would like to thank each one of you once again for joining us today. And we hope that we could provide you with information on ransomware, which will help you make better decisions about protecting your valuable assets. So you will receive a link for the recorded session on the registered email ID. And if you have any further questions which you would like to discuss with us, please leave us a message at help@valuementor.com. So thank you all once again.
So thank you, everyone.